It was early morning, the cold London air, the office lights just starting to flicker on. Suddenly there was a commotion in the corridors of Barings Bank. Phones were ringing, meeting rooms were filling up, and every face was asking the same question. Are we really finished? Some documents were scattered on the desk, margin calls, settlement papers, and in the middle a small slip of paper. I'm sorry. No big speech, just two words that drew a complete line over 233 years of legacy. Barings was not an ordinary bank. People called it the Queen's Bank. History, trust, and prestige, all wrapped in one name. This bank had seen wars, recessions, and market upheavals. But one morning in 1995, the entire institution had emptied from the inside, like a beautiful old building eaten away by termites, looking fine from the outside. And then the news came. Barings Bank was sold for just £1. Yes, £1. No one could believe it, but the ink on the papers was dry. How could this happen? How could such a large bank collapse like this? The answer is simple, but the story is long. In Singapore, a 28-year-old trader named Nick Leeson. How could a single person bring down a whole bank? Did he perform some extraordinary trick? No, he just did what the system's weaknesses allowed him to do, and the rest was done by silence, trust, and hunger for good numbers. The story begins at a desk where both the flashy deals of the front office and the quiet files of the back office passed through the same hands. This was a mistake, a big mistake. The separation of duties, as it's called, had broken. One man had both the steering wheel and the speedometer. In other words, he was making trades and also reconciling and reporting those same trades. Now, if a mistake happened, who would catch it? The very person who made it. It started with small adjustments. An error account, known in office language as a suspense account. It was supposed to be temporary. Write the mistake, fix it, done. But this temporary patch slowly became a permanent cover-up. Losses grew, hope rose that it could be covered, and then the old human mistake happened. One lie needing another lie. This is the promise of our story. How a single trader, how, when, and why. In the coming parts, we will go to that desk, where it all began. To the error account that eventually swallowed the bank. To the days when every move felt like a final attempt. And that morning, when a small slip of paper arrived with "I'm sorry." 33 years of history ended. The story now takes us from the offices in London to the hot, fast-paced trading world of Singapore, where Leeson first started to appear as a hero. The beginning was simple, a hard-working young man sitting in the back office, doing the less glamorous work of papers, reconciliation, and settlements. The back office is where the reality of trades is written. Who bought what at what price? If the money came in and if the papers matched. Here Leeson learned the system, where files were placed, how errors were caught, and if an error was missed, where it would end up. Some time later, Leeson moved to the front office, the trading floor, where screens were bright, decisions made in seconds, and the mind never rested even after work. The Singapore SIMEX, the Singapore International Monetary Exchange, seemed like a place for growth. For the bank too, it was an opportunity. Asia was booming. Index futures and options were trading in high volumes, and here was a rising star who could deliver numbers. So far the story seems normal, a hard-working employee given responsibility. But here the first major crack appeared. The crack was called the breakdown of separation of duties, the simple rule of dividing work. Whoever makes trades should not be involved in their reconciliation, booking, or reporting. But in Singapore, Leeson had both the steering wheel and the speedometer. He was trading and through his team also handling the settlement of those trades. Now imagine if a mistake happened. One or two orders felt wrong, or a client paper didn't arrive on time. Who would ask questions? His own team, the system he operated every day. This operational mistake would later become the biggest villain in the entire story. At the Singapore desk, Leeson initially appeared as a problem solver. Any delayed settlement, I'll handle it. Any client matching issues, I'll fix it. This made him look like a hero. People in London were happy that someone in Asia could make the net results look good, and this was the moment when the habit of ignoring hard questions in favor of good numbers began. This is a dangerous turn in an organization, when people applaud results, but do not pause to check process. Here the error account came into play. The suspense account, as you heard, is supposed to be a temporary place for small errors to be fixed the next day. If it isn't fixed the next day, it becomes a trash bin. Anything can be thrown there under "we'll fix it later." With control over both front and back, handling the suspense account became easy for Leeson. From the outside, everything looked under control. His real job was index arbitrage. In simple words, buying and selling the same index or instrument in two different markets. When a small price difference appeared, profit is locked when the difference closes. This strategy looks almost risk-free, but in reality, operational errors, margins, liquidity and slippage always carry risk. Leeson's early success strengthened his star image. But here another thin crack appeared. Directional bets were added to arbitrage trades, bets on whether the market would go up or down. This shift was so gradual that many didn't notice. On paper everything looked fine. Now let's talk about culture, the invisible environment that runs every office. In London, seeing good numbers created a sense of satisfaction. Singapore was performing well. This line of thought hid many questions. Are the limits right? Is independent risk reporting happening? Is the back office truly independent? It's easy to assume all is fine. Fewer questions are asked. Fewer meetings happen, and everyone's day passes smoothly. But this ease would later prove costly. Imagine a small scene, Leeson on the trading floor, fast screens, headset, orders in front and behind him his team fixing settlement papers. If a match got stuck, park it in the suspense account, we'll fix it by evening. If not, tomorrow, and tomorrow again. Meanwhile, a report goes to London. Profit looks good. Applause in the boardroom. At the same time, any control knocking at the door is stopped. They're busy. The market is open. This is what having both the speedometer and the steering wheel in one hand mean. Even if you're driving, and you're the one checking your speed, who will catch overspeeding? The moment the car begins to skid, it's often too late. First the tires lose grip, little by little, then the steering shakes lightly. One day suddenly, the car spins. Leeson's case was exactly this. Gradual adjustments and the "I'll cover it" habit hid the real skid. In Singapore, Leeson was given great freedom. If this trust had been balanced with controls, it would have led to growth, but when controls are weak, trust becomes a blind spot. Perhaps Leeson never intended to harm the bank initially. He saw himself as a solver, someone who managed the system for a short while and then fixed everything. But in the financial world, even a short while can be extremely dangerous, because the market never waits. People don't wait, margins don't wait, and the truth doesn't wait at all. Understand this story like this. Early in the morning, a trade went the wrong way. It was supposed to be a buy, but it got sold, or the timing was off, or the paperwork matched late. Fine, put it in the suspense account. We'll cover it by evening. Evening came, but the market closed, or some other work got in the way. We'll do it tomorrow. The next day, another small mistake. Then another. Now the suspense account stopped being a dustbin. It started feeling like a storeroom, where things that can't be fixed immediately were stuffed, with the hope that everything would be okay. This is where the psychology of doubling down begins. The oldest mistake of every gambler and desperate trader. The first loss happens, and they think, it's small, I'll cover it. The second happens, no problem, I'll get it back in the next deal. The third, now a bigger bet is needed, or the hole will grow deeper. Suddenly, the account that was created for small mismatches had become an ocean of losses. The suspense account gradually developed into a silent character that, while being handled, started consuming the bank. Now the question arises, why didn't anyone notice this in such a large bank? The answer is simple and uncomfortable. The illusion of reporting and the lapse in culture. In the top offices, the numbers looked good. Profit, new deals, growth in Asia. When the report card on the table shows green, people usually ask fewer questions. Funding for a client. Send it. What is this transfer for? Trading client. Okay. Many such green signals kept coming, because no one wants to believe that even within star performance, a bad smell can exist. And when distant teams, like an exchange or local audit, lightly sounded alarms, why does this account need so much funding? The answers became more confident, less transparent. Simplify the illusion of reporting a bit. Imagine you have 3 or 4 trading accounts, showing good profits, and one error account where temporary problems are parked. From the outside, people see only the shining good profit. When the error account is mentioned, they say, it's just a temporary reconciliation stub. It will clear during the day. The numbers being watched appear fine, so no one rushes to check voucher by voucher. This is both human and institutional laxity. Now, what happened inside the suspense account? Initially, small losses were parked. Then attempts were made to cover them with smart trades. But the market doesn't move according to your plan. Losses grew, and in the hope of a rebound, bigger bets were placed, because small bets could no longer recover the loss. At this stage, risk is no longer a technical term. It becomes a mix of fear and hope. Fear: what if the truth comes out? Hope: one big correct call will fix everything. That hope and fear deepened the suspense account. All this time, the suspense accountant didn't alert anyone. He didn't speak in meetings. He didn't highlight anything in red in emails. He just remained inside the system, and that was his strength. The biggest plays happen in silence, because silence leaves no screenshots, no sound bites. Days went by, and soon the suspense account could no longer be fixed temporarily. It had become a habit of the system. In London's boardroom, when the Asia star keeps performing well, the same line is repeated, and the voices asking tough questions grow quieter. A note arrives in an audit. Front and back control is in the hands of one person or team. Risk is high. The answer comes, yes, but it's being handled. Process will be fixed later. Later sounds polite but is extremely dangerous. And then one by one, red flags began to appear. Unusual funding requests, abnormal transfers, and the growing thirst of the suspense account. But on the floor, where decisions are made quickly, there is no time for detailed interrogation. There should be, but there wasn't. You can call this system fatigue or complacency. The emotional core of this part is here. The suspense account was not a devilish number. It was a number that grew slowly, due to human laziness, pressure, and the save-it-for-now mentality. Leeson may have initially thought, I'll cover it tomorrow, but each tomorrow pushed him further down, and by the time today came, the suspense account had become a black hole, whose gravity pulled the entire bank in. On Barings, Singapore floor that day, the screens looked normal. But the game had changed. Initially, Leeson captured small differences, a little cheaper in one market, a little expensive in another, buying and selling simultaneously to lock small but almost certain profit. This is called arbitrage, a discipline where profit comes from price differences, not speculation. Gradually, his hands began to take direction, market up or down, essentially a bet. This change didn't happen suddenly. It was like a river turning 1 degree each day, and months later, the path is entirely different. Consistent profits first silenced voices. When the report card shows green, applause comes quickly. Questions are asked slowly. Each month good numbers came, trust thickened. Then 1 month performance was weak. Pressure came. Cover it. Next time better. This is where the habit of doubling down is born. To cover the loss, bigger bets are placed. The mind says, I know the system, this is temporary. The market smiles because it doesn't move according to anyone's hope, it moves by its rules. Inside, another story was running, name and perception. The star performer title brings not only bonus but also invisible burden. When everyone sees you as the solution guy, the quiet illusion I can't make a mistake rises. Even if a mistake is caught, an inner voice whispers, it's small, I'll manage. This is where arbitrage discipline starts failing, and speculation begins to win. Speculation wins for no one, it only wins for itself. This was the turning point where the story held its breath. The next scene was nature writing the next chapter. Not a trader's terminal. The ground in Japan would shake, the index would wobble, and the recovery bet would fall like the last stone into a floating man's pocket. Before that, everything seemed normal, like every day. The difference was that hope was slightly heavier, and control slightly lighter. At 5:46 Japan's ground shook, and then stopped. But what broke was not just buildings. The Kobe earthquake shook the veins of the Nikkei. The index slipped on screens, as if someone pulled the market's legs. In Singapore, a man sat at his desk, holding on to an old belief: if it falls it will rebound. This was the recovery bet, a trust that often arrives late and is very expensive. The first day, margin calls: add more cash or the position will be cut. Voices on the phone were loud, emails short and standing. Losses were already running. The suspense account was full from inside. Now the bets placed were no longer small because small bets could not cover the losses. The mind whispered, double or nothing, this time we'll catch it right. The market dropped another step. Second day, cash drained, money came and left immediate. Margin was like a thirsty well. No matter how much you pour in, it stays dry. The net numbers in reports now began to avoid the eyes. At night, adding and subtracting on the ledger, fingers grew tired. Yet one hope kept returning: tomorrow's open will be green. Morning comes, the screen is red. Another call, and cash, sourced from somewhere, borrowed from someone, under some name, some excuse, just enough to keep the bets alive, and when rebound comes, everything will look okay. Third day, spiral. Losses now went beyond numbers and entered the breath. Every hour, the graph ran faster than the heartbeat. I'll recover it. This sentence had become a habit. Told oneself, I've handled the system so many times, this too will be fine. But the truth, the system was handling the man, not the man the system. And he was exhausted. Stress has its own math. It first speeds up decisions, then narrows focus. Sitting at the terminal, Leeson hunted for that one tick to change direction. Each tick changed calculations. Each calculation needed a new bet. Keep it small. That advice was long forgot. Go big. This seemed the only way. The suspense account endured everything, like a black pond swallowing layer after layer. Outside, the city moved normally. Crowds, cars, traffic, as if nothing happened. But inside the floor, the air was heavy. Eyes met, then turned away because the truth was written on every face. This is going out of control. Yet the mind repeated the line: rebound will come. People create lines in their mind to save themselves from present pain. Self-delusion. Push the truth back a little. Bring hope forward. Fourth day, cut-off threat. Call came: reduce position or we will reduce it ourselves. The response: a new bet, a new argument. Give us until tonight. By tomorrow the picture will change. The picture changed, but worse, the market took another step down. This battle had now moved beyond screens. It was a battle with time. How long can it be managed? And at what price? Both questions echoed in the room, but no one asked them aloud. Fifth day, fear. Fear of being caught comes before truth. It first steals sleep, then speech, and finally courage. Papers were spread across the table. Some were sent, some held back, some rewritten. In between, there was silence, broken only by the light tapping of keyboards. In that silence, one sentence formed: I will. The flight outside seemed easier than the fight inside, because at least the path outside ended the immediate pain. Over these 5 days, the recovery bed had added brick by brick, building a wall. On this side of the wall was hope. On the other side, calculations. Hope fought till the end. Calculations won in the end. The truth is, the market didn't defeat Nick. Pressure, fatigue, and the double or nothing mentality did. The market was just there, cold, bound by rules, merciless for everyone. If you framed this moment, one man would appear, bent over in front of the screen, cold coffee in the cup, and in his eyes a last glimmer of hope. That hope was not wrong. It was just alone. And when alone hope is cut off from controls, limits, and true reporting, it doesn't help. It becomes a mirage. The story here is not sentimental, it is human. Nick was neither a monster nor a martyr. He was the product of pressure and illusion, created day by day. A person trapped in the save today, fix tomorrow web. And the Kobe earthquake was not only a shock to the earth, it was a shock to mental balance as well. Even before the morning meeting started, the air was heavy. Some papers were scattered on the table: statements, margin calls, and among them a small piece of paper. I'm sorry. 2 words whose ink, while drying, shook the pillars of a 233-year-old building. Reports coming from Singapore no longer showed net figures. The word discrepancy appeared more. A clerk caught a mismatch during reconciliation. An auditor placed a finger on a transaction, and the story that had been hidden for months in the dark of the suspense account slowly began to emerge into the light of the room. The questions were simple. Where did this money go? The answers were complex, and then suddenly silent. The chair on the Singapore floor was empty. The flight had left during the night, leaving only those two words on the desk: "I'm sorry." When the files were opened, one tune emerged from inside: "Reconcile, pending, cover tomorrow," and the thirst of the suspense account. As layers were removed, it became clear that the losses were not small. They had accumulated into a mountain. The final tally appeared: almost $1,003 billion US. In the Bank of England hallways, discussions. At headquarters, administrators prepared. In the boardroom, one heavy sentence: "We cannot cover it." Within the weekend, many calls were made. Defense, relief, or any buyer, all hesitant. The numbers were unforgiving. Finally, the news came that no one had even imagined in their wildest dreams. Barings Bank was sold for £1. Yes, £1. The world of numbers can sometimes be cruel, symbolic as well. The deal was double-sided. The market reacted in its own language. Headlines repeated the word bank with the Queen. Anchors sounded astonished. Every panel echoed one line: one trader, one bank. How? For those who had spent a large part of their lives with this name, it was not just the end of a job. It was the sudden extinguishing of a legacy. Bonuses stopped, cards were cut, and only one cold line remained in emails: "Thank you for your services." Then mathematics wrote the final page of the story. Total losses: almost $1.02 billion USD, above capital credit lines cut, and cash drained, leaving the bank gasping. This was not the result of complex technical magic. It was the outcome of a combination of simple but deadly mistakes. No separation between front and back, weak independent reporting, limits remaining on paper, and applauding good numbers while forgetting tough questions. Why didn't anyone ask how the system was working? How did everyone ignore what they were seeing? The human side also comes into this frame: pressure, fatigue, and the hope for one last correct trade. That hope made him write "I'm sorry." That hope let the suspense account go unchecked, till the last minute. But the rule is simple: the market does not read your intentions, it only sees your risk. And when risk is hidden in the end, it shouts twice as loud. The market and media remembered this not just as a scandal but as a lesson.